Let's talk about Trump. Trump is celebrating tariffs, and he signs pro-coal executive orders for us to start unleashing our energy and become energy independent instead of depending on other countries, other nations, and other alternative sources for us to be able to get our energy. Check it out. We're not going to go through the whole thing. We're just going to let him talk about it.
Practice with lifting things, I will say, but they are great people, and I know them indirectly for a long, that includes you guys, for a long time, and they're great people and with great families and come from areas of the country that we love and we really respect. And I want to thank Secretary Doug Burgum for doing such an incredible job. From the day I met him, I knew I wanted to have him in my cabinet. He took a shot at running, and he was so good and so solid that he made no news, and that was good. But I saw him, and I saw his beautiful wife, Catherine, and I said that they're going to be a team. They are a great team, and they're going to be working for this country someday. And one of the first people I called after I won. So thank you very much. And along with the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, and I was going to make Doug actually the Energy Secretary. And he said, sir, you have one person who's much better than me at this, Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? I have no idea who he is. And then I learned that he's the most respected person in the energy business by far, far and away. For Doug to say that, Doug's got a big ego. It was very tough for him to say that. Catherine was there, right? Catherine, you said, wow, I've never heard that before. But Chris, you guys are fantastic. Stand up, all three of you, please stand up. Yeah, that's a great team. It's no better team than that. I mean, they're going to produce energy the likes of which nobody's seen before. You know, we need to do the AI, all of this new technology that's coming online. We need more than double the energy, the electricity that we currently have. You take all of the electricity in the country right now for houses, for buildings, for everything. We need to more than double it to be number one. We're now way ahead of everybody at AI. China's in second place, but way behind. And they're going to be producing a lot of energy and a lot of electricity for this. And so are we, and we're going to get approvals very fast. And I would say the man that's almost comparable to you in terms of the importance to this, maybe he's even more comparable, I hate to tell you, a guy named Lee Zeldin, who's a friend of mine for a long time. He couldn't have, they were all saying, why is he wasting his time? That's Democrat territory. And I liked Lee and knew Lee, and he ended up winning a seat in a massive upset. Nobody knew what happened, actually, and then he was there for a long time. How many years were you there? 8 years, was very popular, and then he almost won the governorship of New York, which is lost by a few points, which was an amazing run. And I said, we got to get you in with us in some form, and we did. And he's head of the environmental agency, EPA, and doing a great job. And I said, if we have a nuclear power plant, Lee, can you get it approved in less than a month? He said, what? He said, I'll do it faster. And by the way, he'll do a fast job, but he's going to do also a great job. It's going to be an important job. We don't even smile about it, but you know, I've been involved in the approval process for a long time, having been in real estate, and you go years and years and years for absolutely nothing. And even in those days, I used to say, you know, this whole thing could have been approved in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it would have been just as good. But they'd take you down the path, and you'd spend years waiting, and then sometimes you get rejected. I wasn't rejected too much. I was the king of zoning. I did well, but it was such nonsense. It was so terrible. The process was so terrible. But this is the big leagues now, and he's the head person in the whole country, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you doing it. And already they're respecting you very greatly. So thank you very much, Lee. Great job. So we have a lot of senators and congressmen and women, and I'm going to just introduce the ones that I see here because
no, I don't want to hear
because I leave one or two out, and that's. We have a lot of people from Congress, congressmen and women, representatives. Morgan Griffith. Morgan, thank you. Thank you. Because, for years, people would just bemoan this industry and decimate the industry for absolutely no reason. Because with modern technology and all of the other things that we do, it's one of the great forms of energy. That's why other countries, leading countries, are using it, some exclusively. For 4 long years, Joe Biden and congressional Democrats tried to abolish the American coal industry. They did everything in their power while he was awake, which wasn't much, shutting down dozens of coal plants, banning coal leases on federal lands, and putting thousands and thousands of coal miners out of work, destroying their lives, actually, destroying their lives. I'll never forget when I went to West Virginia, which I won by 48 points, I think, right? Big Jim, I won by 48 points. But in the first campaign where Hillary Clinton was about 4 states too early, and she was talking about how bad coal was and how they were going to teach coal miners how to make widgets and gadgets and technology, which they didn't want to do. They want to mine. One thing I learned about the coal miners, that's what they want to do. You could give them a penthouse on Fifth Avenue and a different kind of a job, and they'd be unhappy. They want to mine coal. That's what they love to do. And she was going to put them in a high-tech industry where you make little cell phones and things. I don't know. Do you think he'd be good at that? I don't know. I wouldn't be. You don't want to be. And she was brutal about 3 weeks before, but then she had a problem. She went to West Virginia looking for votes, and that was a bad situation. You remember that? And there was a coal miner around the table with his family, and he was in tears because of what they had done to him and his family. And I hope he's still around, but that man made quite an impression on the world and the public. And we ended up winning in a great election, but we ended up winning by a lot. The Democrats' Green New Scam killed jobs and sent prices soaring here in America. But meanwhile, China opened 2 coal plants every single week, and other countries likewise went very strongly back into coal. Some of them never got off. Those are the ones that didn't have the problems. The Biden energy policy was to put America last. We want to be last. We got to be last. Not a good policy. Under my administration, we're putting America first. It's very simple.
So while the rest of the world were investing, and because, listen, just because we are embracing the energy within our own country does not mean that we're stopping the innovation process. It doesn't mean that we're not trying to figure out how to do it cleaner. It doesn't mean that we're not exploring new technologies. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. But what it does mean is that while other countries were investing in their own infrastructure, we were continuing to push this Green New Deal because everything in that package was to enrich all of their friends, all of their politicians. When these campaigns kick off, okay? When these campaigns kick off, when you see Democrats, right, and then they say, hey, man, these billionaires need to pay their fair share. Don't you know that people that continue to fund their campaigns are billionaires? Are you thinking that they're just doing it because they want to pay their fair share? No, they're doing it because they see that it's legislation that they're going to push through, and they're going to frame it. They're going to brand it. They're going to market it. Remember when I was telling y'all that you can have the best product in the world, but it doesn't really matter unless you market it greatly? That I told you that Chinese, they spend the majority of their time marketing products, while we may innovate, while we spend all of our money on research and development, they may spend all of their money on marketing. There's companies that spend 90% of their budget on marketing, 10% on the product, and then there's other companies that spend 90% of their budget on research and development, 10% on marketing, right? So while we were sitting there doing this Green New Deal and all of this other, remember the infrastructure deal that Biden signed and pushed through, that we were going to build all of these superchargers, and then they had to go to Elon Musk because they spent billions of dollars and they didn't build anything. Do you ever ask yourself, well, where did all of that money go? Where did all of the money go? These people, they finance these campaigns because ultimately they already know the legislation that's coming and what's being written. Then it goes to be negotiated so that they can make it a part of and get it approved by Congress, right? They push it through and then they have to market it. 10% of it is making sure that they write it. 90% of it is making sure that they got a nice big label, the Green New Deal, the infrastructure deal. the CHIPS Act, right? But if you go through and you look at it and you read it, you realize that it's just a bunch of money that's going to be funded by American taxpayers to enrich the people that then paid for these campaigns of these politicians, and they are in their pockets. And it's going to be a few people that continue to get rich, and nobody's going to ask where the money went. And they're all going to say, well, listen, we pushed it through, but we're waiting for it to actually kick in to help you guys. And then by the time that you start getting curious, like, man, where did all of those jobs go? What happened to the Green New Deal? What happened to all of these jobs? They already pushing through new legislation and saying that they're going to fix the thing that they didn't do the first time. While other countries like China is pushing through and putting through new power plants with new technology in order to make sure that they continue to build their infrastructure, we had politicians that was finessing y'all. And by the time that y'all got done finishing trying to figure out what was going on, you had no jobs. You were dependent on the finance industry. And now you think that you got a good deal as they sell you cheap products over the internet from Temu and Shein. But we investing in our infrastructure. We getting back to the core of what we doing. And we making sure that they pay the price for all of y'all still being heavy consumers.
Always going to be first. On my first day in office, I terminated the Green New Scam. I declared the national energy emergency and withdrew from the unfair, one-sided, and extremely costly to the United States only Paris Climate Accord.
Sound like something from the Avengers. The Paris Climate Accord. Ain't that what they did in the Avengers?
You know, under the
Captain
Paris
America.
Climate Accord, we had a terrible situation. We would have paid over $1 trillion. Think of it, over $1 trillion. And Russia was paying almost nothing. Russia had a 1992 standard. China was paying nothing. China didn't kick in until 2035. This was 5 years ago. So they didn't kick in for many years. India had no standard whatsoever. But we had the highest standard you could imagine. We had to start paying from day one, and we had to pay lots of money. We paid for everything. So I was not a big fan of the Paris Accord.
Oh, the Sokovia Accord.
And I let it be known, and I
that's
got
what
out of it early. Then they went back into it, and now we get back out of it. And hopefully we can be there for a long time, okay? A long time, because it was a scam to take money away from the United States and actually hurt us very badly with coal and with other things. Now, under the executive order that I will sign in a few moments, we're slashing unnecessary regulations that targeted the beautiful clean coal. We will rapidly expedite leases for coal mining on federal lands, and these two gentlemen are going to do a real job of it. You've already started. And we'll streamline permitting. We will end the government bias against coal, and we're going to unlock the sweeping authorities of Defense Production Act, the Defense Production Act, to turbocharge coal mining in America. They made it impossible. I know a friend of mine has a plant. He said, you know, it's a shame. I'm ripping it down and I'm replacing it with another form of energy. I won't tell you because it's also very good, but it's not as powerful as this. He said, you know, the plant I'm building, the new plant, is literally half as good. It's no less, you know, it's not probably even as good environmentally, but he said it produced half the power for more money, much more money. It'll never compete with that beautiful plant I have down the road, which was really a modernized coal plant. Well, he'll be happy to know that he can open that plant up very quickly, and it's going to produce a lot. But he was complaining. He said, this is so much better. He wasn't doing that as politicking me. He was doing that because that's what he felt. And he knew every form of energy. We talked about that. He knew every form of energy. But
the one thing that Trump does well is, and this is why they say A and B students work for C students, is he surrounds himself by people that know how to break it down. Y'all should go and watch this movie called The Big Short. All right? Not even The Big Short. Margin Call. Go watch Margin Call. Right? You had Kevin Spacey. You had a lot of great actors inside of Margin Call. All right? In Margin Call, and I learn a lot from every single thing that I watch, from the books that I read, from the movies that I watch, from the environments that I'm in, and from the culture that I study. All right? In Margin Call, when they called the CEO in and they were breaking down why the market was about to collapse and while everything was about to go down, and you should watch The Big Short and Margin Call, so watch The Big Short and then watch Margin Call afterwards. The CEO said, and I quote, he said, "Do you know why they pay me the big bucks? Do you know why they pay me the big bucks?" But before he said, "Do you know why they pay me the big bucks?" he said, "I want you, the expert, All of the experts was the lowest ones at the totem pole. They were the ones at the bottom, the meet people that were the smartest. And it doesn't mean that you're not supposed to be smart, but it means that you also have to work on your ability to surround yourself with the right people that can then give you the information and the insight so that you can make the right decision. Trump is a decision maker. He says the reason that they pay him the big bucks is so that he could try to predict what was going to happen in the market in the future. And this is where he started to talk about the music not stopping and the music stopping, and he don't hear a thing. But before he did that, he said, I want you to break it down to me as though you're talking to a little child. Break it down to me like you're talking to a little child. You're the expert. I don't want to be the expert in what you do. I want to be familiar. I want to be knowledgeable. I want to continue to learn. But you're the expert at what you do. This is why I don't micromanage people. But break it down to me like a little child so that I can make a smart decision based off of your expertise. If you don't think that Trump is surrounded by some of the greatest minds, by people that have already calculated and anticipated exactly what was going to happen before it happens, versus dealing with all of the rest of these people out in this industry thinking that they know, the Jasmine Crockett's, the AOCs, and all of that. If you don't think that he's surrounded by people that already had gave him the game on exactly what China was going to do before he did it,
our government is going to do something that's very different, and I don't think
Kevin
even you two
Williams
know
says the
about.
problem is his expert isn't one. Okay, so how do you know? Tell me. Tell me all of the people that you know working behind the scenes that's giving him the insight on what he's going to do. Are you telling me that Scott Benson isn't an expert, that he's not one of the greatest minds? Are you telling me that all of these billionaires that are surrounding Trump on a regular basis that run and own these technology companies are not experts on what's going to happen in the industry? You're telling me that they're not advising him on AI, on chips, technology, wars. You're telling me that he doesn't know all of the smartest minds in the world, and they're not lined up to make sure that they're in his favor? Interesting. So you're the expert. So you know better than all of the billionaires that have all of the greatest minds working for them from these technology companies. You're the one that knows better, huh? Armchair quarterback. Probably can't even come up with $1,000 to save their life. But you know. You got it though. If all of these people that are liberals know so much about economic policy and tariffs and trade and stuff, why are they all complaining about getting laid off at their jobs and that they're going to be broke at the end of the month? I'm asking a question from a C student's perspective. If you guys are so smart, why hasn't that translated into real life results? How come you don't have a company that is worth at least $1 million? How come your house is not paid off?
This. This was my idea from about 15 minutes before I got up here. We're going to guarantee that we have a strong business for many years to come, that your coal companies and your miners don't get all excited about their jobs, and then should a radical left liberal become president, they end the business right away, and somebody's built a plant and spent hundreds of millions of dollars in building a plant, and the plant is going to be closed because a Democrat got in or a liberal got in. They're opposed to coal, and Republicans are very much for it, clean coal. And we're going to give a guarantee that the business will not be terminated by the ups and downs of the world of politics. So should somebody come in to this very important office and say, oh, well, you spent hundreds of millions of dollars and you guys have given up your life because you want to be in coal, and then all of a sudden you don't have a life anymore because it's what...
It's so funny when I hear people talk about bankruptcy. Do y'all even understand what corporate bankruptcy is when you file for bankruptcy for a company? When you reorganize in debt so that you can get it at a lower rate? Do y'all even understand? Jesus Christ. Yo, we got to do a remedial class, a remedial finance class, maybe I need to do like a 30-minute class before I do the Millionaire Morning Show every day so I can give you all the fundamentals and we can have these conversations in truth. People just be talking, bro.
But you know the best. That's not going to happen. We're going to give a guarantee that it's not going to happen, so that if somebody comes in, they cannot change it at a whim. They cannot just going to go. They're going to have to go through hell to close you up. All right. So that's pretty good. We're going to give that in the form of a guarantee that we're writing on right now, structurally and from a legal standpoint. So your investments are going to also be protected. And you're going to have no reason to be concerned about your future, your life, or your investment if you're a miner, as this great governor was a miner. Actually, he was one of the larger coal miners. He could fit up here very easily, you know, Big Jim. But he was a great success. But they were very, very tough on him, and he did a beautiful job with a beautiful product. Already under our leadership, the Department of Interior.
Yo, Tyler, I'm going on a shout out to Trump. He's basically going to be praising tariffs. I don't want to go through the whole hour. He's praising tariffs, and he's actually signing executive orders to continue to unleash our energy inside of the United States of America.